This is the story of the girl who married a Jinn. In a quiet valley nestled between the mountains of the Middle Atlas in Morocco lay a village untouched by time. Its houses were made of clay and stone, huddled together like old friends sharing secrets. The air was heavy with the scent of fig trees and the whisper of forgotten legends. It was a place where stories walked in daylight and shadows whispered at night. Her name was Zara, a girl of 17 Springs, known for her beauty and the faraway look in her eyes. She seemed to listen to something just beyond the range of ordinary hearing, like the murmur of a distant brook or the sigh of the wind through the barley fields. Her mother, a weaver of Amazigh rugs, often said Zara was born during a blood moon, a child of the veil, the elders murmured, meaning she could see what others could not. The villagers called her mother Lala, a term of respect for an elder in Berber culture. She was a strong woman with hands as gnarled as the ancient olive tree outside their house, each line telling a story of seasons past, much like the face of the wrinkled valley itself. She had known hardship, yet her spirit remained unbroken. In her eyes, one could see the resilience of the mountain goats that climbed the treacherous cliffs surrounding their home. Zara's father Ahmed was a man of few words, a potter whose creations were as silent and stoic as the stones from which they were made. He was respected, not just for his craft, but for his quiet strength, a strength that had carried him through the harsh winters and scorching summers that the Atlas Mountains had thrown at him. Their small house was filled with the echoes of their lives, the rhythmic tap of Zora's loom, the soft glow of the oil lamp casting dancing shadows on the walls, and the quiet companionship of the mountains that loomed over them like protective giants. They were a simple family, their lives as unpretentious and enduring as the earthen pots that adorned the shelves outside their home. Zara, however, seemed to belong to a different realm, a realm where the veil between the seen and the unseen was thin as gauze. She would often wander near the river at dusk, where the water shimmered unnaturally and frogs stopped croaking when she came close. The villagers warned her, "Stay away after Maghreb, they didn't walk then." But Zara only smiled. She felt watched, but never afraid. One evening, as the Adhan echoed through the valley, Zara saw him. He stood on the other side of the river, tall, with obsidian hair and eyes like burning coal. He wore a black burnous. Though there was no wind, he did not blink, he did not breathe. But his gaze reached her soul. Every night he was there, a silhouette against the fiery hues of sunset, never crossing the river, never speaking, just watching. Each night he drew closer, not in physical steps, but in the intensity of his gaze, as if trying to bridge the divide between them. Zara felt drawn to him too, as if an invisible thread had been spun between their souls, pulling her towards the enigma that he represented. Despite the villagers' warnings, she found herself returning to the riverbank each evening, eager to feel the pull of his presence, to lose herself in the depths of his enigmatic eyes. Then one night, when the sky was a velvet canvas studded with 1,000,000 diamond stars, Zara whispered, "Who are you?" His reply, when it came, was like the rustling of leaves in an autumn wind and the deep roll of drums echoing in a hollow space. "I have waited 1,000 years for you." His words hung in the air, resonating within Zara's soul. From that moment, their nightly rendezvous took on a new dimension. She went from being a curious observer to an active participant in a world she couldn't comprehend. He told her of his people, the genies, beings of immense power that dwelt in the unseen realms, of how he'd been bound to the river by a sorcerer long ago, of his loneliness and his endless wait. She, in turn, shared stories of the human world, of the laughter and tears, of the joys and sorrows she'd known. Their conversations spanned across the divide of two worlds, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences that defied the boundaries of their different existences. But as the days turned into weeks, a change came over Zara. Her laughter grew distant, her eyes shadowed. She spent her days in a trance, seemingly oblivious to the world around her. Her skin, once sun-kissed and vibrant, now looked pale and drawn. Her movements, once as light and graceful as the mountain gazelle, became slow and heavy. The villagers noticed and worried. The faqih, a local Islamic scholar, was called upon to help. He, a man of deep faith and wisdom, performed rituals and offered prayers, trying to discern the cause of Zara's strange behavior. Meanwhile, Lala, Zara's mother, noticed a subtle change in her daughter's demeanor, a haunting sadness that lingered in her eyes, a haunting sadness that mirrored the vast emptiness of the mountains that dwarfed their village. Suspicions arose, whispers spread like wildfire in the close-knit community. Some blamed Zara, accusing her of dabbling in practices forbidden by their faith. Others blamed the faqih, saying he hadn't done enough to protect the village from the unseen. But Lala knew in her heart that there had to be a reason for Zara's actions. She just couldn't fathom what it was. One night, unable to bear the weight of her daughter's suffering and the village's accusations, Lala decided to seek help from a marabout, a holy man revered for his knowledge and powers. The journey was perilous, the path treacherous, but Lala's determination was fueled by her love for her daughter. Finally, after days of arduous travel, she reached the marabout's secluded dwelling high in the mountains. Here, in a place where the air was thin and the wind carried secrets, The marabout listened intently to Lala's tale, his gaze never wavering from the troubled mother. When she finished, he remained silent for a long moment, lost in thought. The silence was broken only by the mournful cry of a hawk circling overhead. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and resonant, echoing the wisdom of the ages. Your daughter has indeed strayed, but not out of malice or disbelief. She has stepped into a world unseen by most, a world of immense power and ancient beings. Lala's heart skipped a beat. The world of the genies, a world she had dismissed as myth and legend, now seemed terrifyingly real. The marabout continued, his words grave. She has married one of them. A chill ran down Lala's spine. Married? To whom? How? Questions that had no answers. The marabout, seeing the turmoil in Lala's eyes, reached out, his touch surprisingly warm and reassuring. Do not despair, he said. There is still a way to bring her back. He handed Lala a length of black thread, soaked in a mixture of pomegranate and salt. This, he said, will bind her to the world of the living. Take it back to your village. At the first light of dawn, tie it tightly around her wrist. But beware, whatever happens, do not untie it. No matter what she says, no matter what you hear, hold fast until the thread loses its color. With the marabout's instructions echoing in her ears, Lala began her long journey back home. The thread, heavy in her hand, seemed to throb with an energy both alien and menacing. The villagers, upon seeing Lala return, gathered around her, their faces etched with concern. They peppered her with questions, but she remained tight-lipped, her gaze fixed on the thread. As dawn approached, she found Zara sitting by the river, her eyes distant, her form ethereal. With a trembling hand, Lala began to wrap the thread around her daughter's wrist. As the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, Zara's body convulsed. Her eyes rolled back, and a scream tore through the stillness of the morning, a scream that seemed to shake the very foundations of the valley. But Lala held fast, her fingers digging into the thread. Suddenly, a voice boomed, echoing with the force of a tempest. You dare bind me? I am her husband. The earth trembled, and the river roared as if awakened from a slumber. The villagers cried out in terror, cowering before the raw power that surged through the valley. But Lala stood firm, her gaze unwavering, her resolve as solid as the mountains that cradled their village. Hours passed, and as the sun climbed higher in the sky, the tremors subsided, leaving behind a heavy silence. The thread around Zara's wrist had faded to a sickly gray. Slowly, weakly, Zara opened her eyes. Relief washed over Lala, but she knew her daughter was not the same. What happened? Zara whispered, her voice a mere echo of its former strength. Lala, with tears in her eyes, could only shake her head. She knew the truth, but sharing it would only deepen the mystery, perhaps inviting more danger. From that day forward, Zara remained in the village, her spirit forever touched by the world of the genie. The well that had dried up during her absence began to yield water once more. Crops that had withered suddenly flourished. The shadow of fear that had loomed over the village lifted, replaced by an uneasy calm. Still, sometimes when Zara walks alone at twilight, the wind carries a whisper of her husband's voice, calling her name, and she smiles, with tears in her eyes. For part of her will always belong to the enigmatic world of the genies, forever bound to a love that defied the boundaries of the seen and the unseen.